Hello class, and welcome to Notes 6.2, Graphs of Linear Equations. So today we're going to be graphing all those equations that you've been making. First, our vocab word for today is linear equation, an equation whose graph is a line or part of a line. So obviously it's going to make a nice straight line. You're not going to have any kind of a curve to it at all. Linear equations, if you look at the three examples there, if you were to graph all of those, you'd find you'd have straight lines. The ones that say not linear equations, because notice here the two variables are being multiplied together. If you ever have that situation, you will not have a straight line. Also, if you have any exponents on your variables, you will not have a straight line. Okay, so those are the two things that will affect it and make it not a straight line. The rest will all be straight lines. Okay, let's take a look at teacher example 1. Graph y equals 1/2 x plus 1. So what we need to do here is choose several values for x. And as I said in the last video, you want to use a positive, a negative, a 0. Then we're going to do one other. And the reason why you want to have 4 is you can tell, if your graph is not a straight line, you can tell which point is incorrect. Okay, so I plug my numbers in. Half of negative 4 would be negative 2. Add 1. Half of negative 2 would be negative 1. Add 1. Half of 0 would just be 0. Then I add 1. Half of 2 is 1 plus 1. So now I have all my y values. Okay, then I'm going to list all my solutions as ordered pairs. So notice the negative 4 of the x value goes with the negative 1 of the y, and so on. And finally, I can plot my points and connect them with a line. So you can see I've got my points here in pink, and I've connected them with a straight line. They do form a straight line, so that means I've done all of them right. What you want to be aware of is if you have one point that's way down here, you know you've done something wrong on that particular point, and you want to go back and double check. Okay, so go ahead and try this out on your own. Student practice 1. Go ahead and choose the x values. Notice I've picked some for you, some nice easy ones that I recommend you use. But of course you can use your own x values. You'll end up with the same answer. Go ahead and press play when you're ready to see your solutions. Okay, let's take a look. If you use these values for x, you'll get these y values. And if you use these values here for x in this equation, notice all those values are multiplying by negative 2, so you're going to be changing that sign. These will be your y values. Now I only had room to make one graph, so I had to do both of them on the same graph. But as you can see, negative 1, negative 8 is going to be this graph right here, going upwards. And then negative 1, positive 5 is going to be here, going downwards. So those are the two. You need to make sure that you're always using separate graphs for each problem. So make sure every problem is on its own graph. Do not ever graph all of them on the same graph. Okay, it's very important you understand that rule. Okay, teacher example 2, we have a word problem here. Amy's hair is 3 inches long and grows ½ inch per month. The length y in inches of her hair can be modeled by the equation y equals 1/2 x plus 3. Use the graph to estimate how long it will take Amy to grow her hair to a length of 5½ inches. So as we can see, we already have the 3, and then the ½ inch times each month. Now notice on these word problems you have to be careful, because in the x values I can't have any negatives. And the reason is that x stands for the months, so I can't have negative months go by. Okay, so I'm going to plug my numbers in. For example, the number 1, I can plug that number in, multiply it by a half, and then add 3. Here, I'm plugging the number 2 in, multiplying by a half, adding 3. 0, of course, 0 plus 3 is simply 3. And 4, half of 4 is going to be 2, plus 1 is 5. So notice I haven't found out how long, so in 0 months it's 3 inches long, and after 1 month it's 3½. I haven't found the length of 5½ inches, but when I graph it, I can see that if I keep going with my graph, I'll reach 5½ inches right here at 5 months. So my answer would be, it will take 5 months for Amy to grow her hair to a length of 5½ inches. Okay, final teacher example, graph the line. Now here, when you have just x equals or just y equals. That means that variable has to always be that number, and since it doesn't mention anything about the other variable, it can be anything. So for example, on problem A, x has to be 6, y can be anything you want, and it will make a vertical line, which of course is an up and down line. When you always have y is a specific number, x can be anything you want, and that will make a horizontal line, okay, which goes across. So if we take a look here, problem A is graphed right here in a vertical line. Because x has to be 6, notice on the x-axis, we're always at 6. On problem B, the y-axis has to be at -3. So we've got -3 going all across here. X can be anything that you want. Okay, so go ahead and try that out on these two. Go ahead and plot your graphs. Notice on number 3, y is always 2.5, and on number 4, x is always -5. So as we can see, it's a y equals, so it must be a horizontal line. And there you go right there. We've got a bunch of points plotted. And for number 4, x is equal to something all the time, so it is going to be a vertical line at -5. Okay, hopefully you did all right with that and you understand the difference between the horizontal line and the vertical line. Make sure you know that vocabulary. You will need it for a test. You will not simply be able to just say the line that goes across. So make sure you know whether it's horizontal or vertical. Okay, please go on to quiz 6.2, graph linear equation. Use these values for x. And what you're going to do is -2, 0, 1, and 2. Now in Schoology, you won't be putting your graph, you'll be putting these ordered pairs. So when you plug -2 in for x, you're going to need to find out what y is, and that's going to go here. When you use 0 for x, find out what y is. 1 for x, find out what y is, and 2 for x, find out what y is. Be careful. You have to get every single one of these right in order to get the problem correct. So be very careful. Okay, plug those values in carefully, do your work. I do recommend you graph it. As I said, you're not submitting the graph to me in Schoology, but if you graph it, you'll be able to see right away whether you've got a straight line or not. Okay, have a great day.